When one Lion King version is not enough, we'll just add a second one. Stand up! Vanguard! Hey card fighters, welcome back to another card fight set review for Miyaji Academy Cardfight Club. And today we're gonna go over the new Gold Paladin cards they got in this set. And just like Oracle Think Tank, we're gonna also refer to the older sets that we already seen as soon as we finally can compare cards to the older sets they already got. And this set was already expected by a lot of people as soon as the ultra rare support for Gold Paladin was a little bit lacking in some sense. It didn't felt by a complete support wave. And after we've seen all the releases for this set, we can see that we can now finally build a complete deck that is insane. So without further ado, let's go over the new cards, and especially the new Azel support card, as these cards look very interesting. Just like Gold Paladin, they didn't get any new triggers, so we can just skip all that part. They didn't get the new starter or vanilla or whatsoever, so we can jump right into these specific cards for Gold Paladin. And we're kicking the bunch off with a very interesting card, and that is Great Silver Wolf Garmore. And it's a very interesting card in its own sense, as seen as his following skills. This first one is Continuous Vanguard Circle. If you have one or less cards in hand, all of your rearguards cannot be attacked nor retired by your opponent's card abilities. So it's an immunity to your rearguards, and that's very interesting and very needed in some Axel clans, and especially something like Gold Paladin that's playing with a low hand size. And its other skill is Vanguard Circle. When placed, cost counterblast 1. Look at the 3 cards from the top of your deck, call a card from among them to the rearguard circle, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, and 6 of your units get power plus 3k until the end of turn. That's pretty big. That's actually just like Maelstrom, or yeah, it's just like Maelstrom that counts 1 front row plus 3k, only now you can also give it to the back row units, but you also get a unit from it. That's pretty good. Only the problem is that you need to be, it's on play, so you need to keep rewriting. And it's although Vanguard Circle, this continuous Vanguard Circle is very strong, but there is a little problem with it that I have. It's the fact that you never run that one card in hand. As seen as you have Twin Drive, so at least you end your turn with 2 cards, so your opponent can still retire your stuff and attack your stuff before you can get this nullify effect. Kagero and Narukami can still do it. Even Narukami can do it anyways, as soon as they're not retiring, they're binding. And Kagero can just retire in the main phase as soon as you have 2 cards in hand, so you have no immunity left. When they start attacking, you first need to ditch 1 card before the immunity kicks in. So in that sense, it doesn't feel complete, and there's missing something. I think there needs a support card that maybe enables this in a higher card advantage, so you have more cards in hand and this thing still kicks in or some regard. But it's just even worse than what Brave was, and I have my issues with Brave, and this is even ultimate Brave in that sense, as you need only 1 card. I see potential in this card, and we'll give it 4 stars to be honest, because I see a lot of potential, and just like I stated, the second skill is a stronger Maelstrom skill that he had with the counterblast front row plus 3k, as seen as it's more versatile, and it also gets you rearguard. But with Garmore, we're get animals, and the first one is Direct Gall, and his skills on Vanguard Circle. When your Vanguard is placed, if this unit is in your front row, cost counterblast 1, choose up to 2 grade 2s or lower cards from your hand, and call them to the rearguard circle. If you call 2 cards, draw a card. Actually, you counterblast 1 to draw. But it's a very specific way to draw, because you need to call 2 cards from your hand that are grade 2 and lower. What does help with this card is that you can draw, basically. And if you already were planning to call the units to the field, you're getting a draw div. Also, this card enables those effects that needs cards to be called throughout an effect, as these are going to call it out through his effect. So it helps with that. Also, what we're going to see a lot with these cards is that they are stating that they need already be in the field when your Vanguard is placed. And this interacts with Garmore in a sense, as since the Garmore gives protection to your rearguard, so they will stay on the field when you're gonna rewrite into a new Garmore. But in that sense, I don't think it's a good card. And I don't think that really any of these cards that has this effect are really that great, as seen as is very specific that they can only survive with Garmore protection, but as I stated before, the only part that I don't like about Garmore is the awkward protection. For that, I will give this card only 2 stars, as I don't think it's really that great. And sure, you have the draw effect from it, but the draw effect is very specific that you need to call 2 cards that are grade 2 or lower. So it depends on your scenario, but I don't think it's really that good. Alright, next up we've got another animal, and that is Ball Sparrow. And Ball Sparrow has the skill Auto Rearguard Circle. When your Auto Rearguard is placed in the same column as this unit, due to your card's ability, this unit gets plus 5k until the end of turn. Alright, this is actually a decent booster. It's a 30k booster, and it makes great numbers with your other rearguards, and as soon as you're probably gonna superior call a lot, you can just superior call it in front of this thing, and this thing will proc. But it needs a lot of support in the sense that you need to keep calling cards in the same circle, and it's limited in that, so I'll give it 3 stars for that. But in some scenarios, it might win you games if you're just gonna go balls to the walls and keep calling cards in the front of this thing to get steadily more powerful attacks out of it. Alright, next up we got another animal, and that's Cheragol. And Cheragol has the skill Auto Vanguard the Rearguard Circle. When placed from hand, this unit gets plus 5k power until the end of turn. Alright, first off, it's a 7k grade 1. I'm not really fond of that. And it's on place, it will gain some 5k, so it becomes 12k on place for once per turn, so it can become a 12k booster or 12k attacker. Once again, not really fond of that, to be honest, as 12k is not really that great. All our grade 2s are already 12k, and I want to have more useful out of my grade 1s, but this basically doesn't really do anything. So I'll give it 2 stars, because I see some merit. Even the 12k booster, it might be functional in some way, but it's not that great. It's not a great card. Alright, now we're getting to these interesting cards, and I mean interesting by the art of these cards. As seen as it doesn't really look like Vanguard cards to me. And you can also see that there is a studio on all these cards by the illustration on the bottom right corner of the card. So I'm really not sure what they were planning with these arts, as it looks really weird. It might be your cup of tea, but not mine personally. But some have really interesting skills and others don't, but let's go over them one by one. So first of these one is Knight of Exhaustion Azarus. And his skill is Auto Vanguard the Rearguard Circle. When placed from your hand, cost, discard a card from your hand, look at the top 3 cards from the top of your deck, call up to 1 card with a grade less than or equal to your Vanguard's grade from among them to the Rearguard Circle, and put the rest on the bottom of the deck in any order. Basically what it is it's a new Vivian. That doesn't cost any Counterblast and Soul Blast. So that's actually pretty good. It only costs, well, it depends on who you ask. If it's an only or it's pretty big, it costs a card for hand. For that I will give it 4 stars, as I think it's a pretty good fit in any kind of deck when you're heavy on resources and just want to put something extra in your deck. You can just pop this thing in. Alright, next up we've got a grade 1, and that is Knight of Energetic Steel, Blenius. Basically the Sephiroth of card Vanguard. And his skill is Auto Vanguard Circle. When your grade 3 or greater Vanguard is placed, cost, put this unit into your soul, draw a card, and call a card from your hand to the Rearguard Circle. And once again, another card that synergizes well with Garmore, as soon as it needs some protection, but it doesn't really have to need that, as soon as it's a grade 1 and you could call it to the back row in the early game, and you can then, it goes in the soul. And that's the big part about this card. As soon as Gold Paladin had a soul issue. Depending on the scenario, it might be good, but it's vulnerable against any kind of control, as soon as it needs to be on the field, and you need to ride your grade 3 Vanguard, so it's also limited in when you can use it. So for that I will give it 3 stars, but I think it can be a really good card in some decks. Alright, next up we've got Knight of Fury, Grassinus. And his skill is continuous on Rearguard Circle. If your rearguards were called due to the ability of a card during this turn, this should get plus 5k. But it's a continuous skill, so it can only activate once, so it can become a 14k beater. And 40k beater is actually pretty nice. And since you're probably gonna superior call every turn, you always have this thing as 14k, or 24 depending if it's an Axel Circle. And for that I will give it 3 stars, as we don't really have that much beaters in Gold Paladin, as seen as most cards are 12k throughout their skills. Alright, next up we got Knight of Civilization, Villagers. His skill is continuous on Rearguard Circle. If it's the turn other than it was placed, this shouldn't get plus 3k. So it's a 12k attacker. Alright, I'm not gonna beat around the bush about this one. It's a bad card. It's a 1 star, and the reason why it's a 1 star is on call it's just a 9k, does nothing, and then only the following turn in your opponent's turn, that's the only upside to this, it's a 12k in your opponent's turn, and then also in your turn after that. But, as I stated before, 12ks are a little bit awkward, as they might not hit everything, especially against forest clans, and it doesn't really do anything besides it. And all your grade 2s are very important key units, and you don't want to replace one of your key superior call units for this thing. So that will give it 1 star, as I don't think you would run it in any kind of deck. Alright, next up we got the grade 1 version of this card, and that is Knight of Counter Attack, Digrius, and his skill is continuous on Rearguard Circle. If it's the turn other than it was placed, this shouldn't get plus 3k power. Again, same effect. But this isn't a 1 star in my opinion. It's in fact a 2 star. So not really that much an improvement. But the reason why it's a little bit better, as seen, this is grade 1. So you're not sacrificing a lot of your superior calling cards effect. But also it gains plus 3k. So it is 10k booster. Meaning you can put it in the back row. And you can turn a normal column into the same power as an Axel column. As seen, it generates the same power that an Axel column will generate. Next up, we got a card that basically is Riptide. I talked about it yesterday with the Narukami one, but this is basically Riptide. Because this is Knight of Great Strength Battleness, and his skill is continuous on Rearguard Circle. If 4 or more of your rearguards were called during this turn, this unit get power plus 20k. Alright, so plus 20k is 32, on X Circle 42. That's a good number to hit, especially in late game stages. So it has its merit in that. The only big issue I have with this card is its condition. You need to call 4 cards. You might be able to pull it off once, but I doubt that you can pull it off twice in a game. As seen as you're very limited in your resources. And sure, you can force it out by calling a lot of cards from your hand, but I don't recommend that. And in that sense, very limited. But I do value the immense power spike in this card. So I will give it 3 stars, as it might have its fit in some decks, as you might have struggled by putting out more pressure to get over that threshold to force more guard from their hand. So it might have its merit in that. Now that we talked about all the cards, let's go to the finishing couple of 3 cards, and that's all the Azel support. I already talked about them in very detailed in this video, links on top, where I go over every of these 3 cards in very detail on how they might work. So if you're interested in a more in-depth look, check out that video. And here I go over my final conclusion of that video of what I think of these cards, and then we're basically up to date for Gold Paladin. So the first one is Crimson Lion Beast Hoel, and his skill is on a Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle, it's boosted if you have a Vanguard with a Zealot's card name, cost, counter +1, put unit into your soul, draw a card, and call a card from your hand to the Rearguard Circle. Alright, right from there, it's an amazing card. Although it has a condition that it needs to work with Azel, the main deck that you're gonna run is Azel. But for Counterblast, it goes in the soul. Well, it goes in soul as a cost, but it goes in soul, so you have soul for that. And you draw and call something. But it's at the end of the battle. So, once again, you get that Gold Paladin feel that you can decide when you want to use it, but it's also multi-attacking to a great extent. You can even multi-attack more after your Vanguard attack, throughout even more. And this is the thing that you really want to have with Gold Paladin. You have multi-attacking after the battle phase, so after the damage step. The card goes in the soul, and you draw something when you call it from hand, so you're not minusing on your hand with it. And it's an 8k body. I have nothing to say besides that it's a 5-star card. It does everything that you want. Multi-attacking, soul build-up, the drawing, and also end of the damage step calculation. I said it before many times already, but it's just that good. And I think it's a very good include in your Azel deck. So that's why I can only say 5 stars for this thing. Alright, next up we got the other grade 2, and that is Flamewind Lion Wonder Azel. And his skill is Act, Vanguard Circle, cost, Soul Blast 1, and retire a Crimson Lion Beast Hoel on the Rearguard Circle. So you need to retire the grade 1. Search your deck for up to 1 Incandescent Lion Blonde Azel, write it in stand, and it gets drive -1 until the end of turn. Shuffle your deck. So just like the other grade 2 we got in the last set, that's the Triple R, this one also enables superior ride with Azel. Only with Azel himself, he needs to be in the hand, and you need to have those 2 cards in the field, and then you can ride it from out hand. This one, you need to have the grade 2 and the grade 1 in the field, and then you can search it out from your deck. So that's even better in some sense, but it depends on the scenario. In this case, you need to have the grade 1 and 2 in your opening hand, and in the other case, you need to have the grade 2 and the grade 3 in your opening hand, as soon as you can fetch the grade 1 with the grade 2. But this also has a great skill, another skill, that's Auto Rearguard Circle. When placed, you may call a card from your hand to the Rearguard Circle. So, when you call this mid-battle, this one can chain into another one. And my final verdict for this card is that I will give it 4 stars. It might sound odd, as you would expect maybe a 5-star card rating on this card. But I think it's the fact that you're not redrawing the superior call cards. It might be, in some scenarios, be awkward, as you might not have any good cards to call. You need to have the grade 1 and 2 in your opening hand, and you have no other way to fetching them. So you're really left to your devices to that turn. Alright, now we're getting to the final boss monster of the deck, and that is Ravenhair Azel. And this card is a beast, because he got following 2 skills. Act from hand, If your Vanguard is Incandescent Line and Blonde Azel, cost, counter +1, and write this card to stand. Alright, this effect is insane. The reason why it's insane is that you can generate even more Excel circles faster. You can write Azel and then use its skill to generate 2 Excel circles in 1 turn. And you can basically do that every turn in succession. You cannot do this one on top of himself as soon as you need to have Blonde Azel. But what makes this card even sicker is the fact that when you Superior Ride into Azel early game, it should have 1 drive. When you have this thing in hand and you have 1 counterblast, you can counterblast 1 and then you will ride this thing, you have 2 Excel circles and you have a twin drive Vanguard when your opponent is what? Grade 1 or 2? That's insane. Yeah, in my opinion that's a really strong effect, but he also has a really great effect that helps with the early game, and that's Auto Vanguard Circle. When it attacks, if an Incandescent Line Blonde Azel is in your soul, cost, counterblast 1. Until the end of the battle, this unit gets power plus 15k and a critical +1. And your opponent cannot cast sentinels from his or her hand. So right there, that skill helps a lot with the early pressure issue. When your opponent has low damage, they can just face tank anything and it will take some time before they get to the danger spot of 4 or 5 damage. This card, with the critical, can put them into the danger zone right off the bat before they even go to grade 3. And the fact they cannot sentinel it, it will mean they lose a lot of cards from hand if they want to guard it. And that's also very good for something like an Exoclan. So I think this card is completely worthy of his 5 stars, as it fixes a lot. It can generate a twin drive early game. It can force your opponent to go to high damage when they actually don't want to, or they need to ditch a lot of cards from their hand that they actually also don't want to. So it's a very good card in my opinion. And you can then switch off to Blonde Azel to go back to multi-attacking when the time is right, when they're already sitting at a high damage count. So it's a very good card in my opinion. So although this set didn't really have a lot of cards, it got some new interesting cards in the form of Garmore, the new Azel, also the second Superior Ride, and these interesting generic cards we got in the mix between them. Gold Paladin now looks like a final completed deck they can now finally build and make, although we got some awkward cards in the mix like Garmore and Bellanor in some cases that might make its own deck, but we need some more cards for them to make a complete working deck around them in my honest opinion. I know there are some ways that you can build the decks, but I'm not personally convinced about how they function with the current meta and how it works. But with that I covered everything that I need to cover for Gold Paladin, and although there aren't really that a lot of cards to go over in this set, there are still some interesting things to talk about. And I'm also very curious on what you guys think of Gold Paladin. So leave it in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards in this set. And if you are agreeing with my ratings or if I missed something important. I'm very curious to reading that. And as always guys, I'm Mr. Time Leap. And I see you guys in the next one.